Okay, hello and welcome again to our computer graphics and visual effects lecture notes. We right now on the week number 5. We have lecture number 9 and 10, and today we will discuss Adobe Photoshop. This software, this application. So previously we did some elements of Lightroom in Adobe family, and right now we're moving to more advanced Photoshop software. It's for sure one of the most powerful tools for media professionals, and you can ask if you have any friends in field of media if they're working in Photoshop, and answer will be completely yes. So let's dive in. Introduction to Adobe Photoshop's interface. What we will do on our next practice hours, we will do like brief work on the interface, on all of the buttons, elements, tools of the Photoshop. But here, in terms of lecture, we will discuss functionality of this application. So how we can divide Photoshop's interface. It has its own toolbars, panels, and workspace. So for toolbars, Photoshop's toolbars contain a wide range of tools for editing, selecting, painting, and more. So visually, we will move on to it on the next slides. Panels. So panels provides access to various settings, layers, adjustments, and other options for customizing your workflow. So panels, we can add them more and more, like depends on what kind of project we're doing, what we need, what kind of elements we need. So through the panels, we can work with them. And workspace in general depend on what kind of project you're doing. The workspace allows you to create and manage your documents, include images, layers, and effects. So, for example, right now a lot of content that we're using, they are like not horizontal but vertical. So in workspace, we can give this adjustment to change from horizontal to vertical. Okay, basic image editing techniques, basic tools that we can do. Again, we discussed it before, like color correction, resizing, cropping, some adjustment of contrast and brightness and so on. On our practice, we will do it. Okay, I'll move on. So working with layers and layer management. Previously on our lecture, I said that Photoshop is layer-based application. Yes, so a lot of work that we will do in Photoshop is layer-based. We will arrange, compose, and manipulate layers, elements in Photoshop. First, layer creation, like we can create new layers to isolate different elements of our image, allowing for independent editing. So each layer, like all of the changes that we're doing on this layer, it not included others. So it will not affect other elements, other objects. If you're choosing one layer, all of your work will be exactly in this layer. Okay, layer blending modes. Experiment with 2 blending modes to create unique visual effects by controlling how layers interact. So here, if I said previously, it's like when you're working with one layer, you only doing changes to this layer, but we have also blending mode where we can like blend 2 different layers and see how they interact with each other, how what kind of changes we will see. So here is the same. Okay, layer styles. We can add like different effects like shadows, glows, strokes. So this is different effects and styles that we can apply to our layers. And layers visibility, basic element, but also like sometimes it can help us to make focus on some objects, like you can turn your layers on or off, or you can change visibility like for 50, 60, like you can do it transparent or visible. So it depends on what kind of work you're doing right now. Okay, in terms of masking, in terms of selection and refining, so sometimes it's easier to work with Photoshop on the tablets, on the planchettes. Why? Because some of the elements of the Photoshop is very like sensitive to sensor, like to our movements. So again, a lot of drawers, they will use Photoshop to draw their arts. So it's common, but in our practice, we will not move on to this field of drawing. We mostly, again, as I said, image editing, image manipulation, visual effects, not drawing here. So, but Photoshop has its own instruments. So we have different selection tools that gives us to select, to change selection of our objects. It's like tools like lasso, mark, quick selection. So in future you will see that they are very, very handy, very useful. So in terms of masking, yes, like we can create masks to isolate or protect specific parts of an image for targeted editing. We will do it again, as I said. Masking, it's not only for images, but also for videos. And we will apply this function in our practice hours. And refining edge is selections to create smooth and natural looking masks. So yes, usually how we will work with masks, we will select them, for example, like by edges of my face, of my hand, and so on and so on. Depend on your project. It needs to be specific with masking. So that's why that sometimes it's easier to do with tablet, because you can very easily to change, to make these edges. With trackpad, with mouse, sometimes it's harder, but we will not work so much with these edges, so it's okay for us. Okay, move on. So color correction and retouching is again a big part. In terms of color correction, we discussed it before. Mostly we will do color correction in Adobe Lightroom software. But sometimes if you don't have access to Lightroom, you can easily do color correction in Photoshop software, in Photoshop application. What else? What interesting for us in terms of photo manipulation here is retouching. So here the elements for tools for color correction, levels and curves. So again, same as in Lightroom, we can change lights with color with curves and levels. And hue and saturation, the same as in Lightroom, basically, because Lightroom and Photoshop, they are in one family of Adobe ecosystem. So some of the functions are the same. In future, when we will work in Adobe Premiere Pro, in Adobe After Effects, you will see that these elements repeating itself. They like has same instruments and tools, similar. Okay, but in terms of retouching here, spot healing brush, what it does, it removes blemishes, dust spots, or other imperfections from images. Brush, for sure, we will use it a lot for our assignments. Another one, clone stamp. It's copies and paste areas of an image to cover or blend imperfections. Again, on previous slide, I showed you like how some elements of clone stamp can work. These elements we will use for assignment of restoration and retouching old photos. So basically one of our assignment will be to do like from old photo, new, completely different image. So we will use spot healing and clone stamp tools to do it. Okay, let's move on. So what's here? Photoshop for digital imaging and photography. Yes, image. We can apply some different creative effects, like filters, textures, and interesting part that Photoshop is very good for doing some text effects. A lot of different text layers, styles we have there, and sometimes like when you're doing some posters, some visual content, Photoshop is very good tool for us. And image enhancement, as I said, image editing, image manipulation, it's all of part of our work, same as for media and for digital journalism. Here, let's see, like what we can do. We can create and manipulate text in Photoshop. So basically, how it looks. Firstly, what we need to do is to upload different fonts into Photoshop, because like originally it's limited, not so much interesting fonts we have in our system. So what we need to do is to download different interesting fonts that we can apply, that we need to use. And I will send you on our practice part the font that all of the Hollywood studios using for their posters, like directed by actors, producers, and so on. So I will send you this image, and we will try to understand how we can apply it. So because this font is interesting part, it has its own keys. You're not just typing like ABC and it will show you ABC. Sometimes if you print A, it will show you directed by, for example, so on. But in Photoshop, like all of the movements and adjustments that you can apply to text, you can do them. It's very easy and very handful. Okay, what's next? Type tool, just typing your text. Text effects, so what you can do, like add some shadows, clouds, outlines, and so on. And text warp, we can distort, manipulate the shape of text to create different, interesting, unique layouts. Okay, move on. So the variety where we can do like apply our knowledge in Photoshop. We can do painting and illustration. We can create digital paintings, illustrations, graphics, using different tools of Photoshop, like brushes, layers, and so on. Web design, for sure. I know some of my friends, they're doing like web design in Photoshop. But right now, for sure, like Figma and other applications, it's easier. But like old school editors, web designers, they did it in Photoshop. And probably you know that Adobe, what they did when Figma firstly was as a startup, they just bought it and included it into their own ecosystem. And we will discuss on our practice hours. Maybe some of our assignments we will be able to do in Figma if it's easier for you. For sure, like why not? Because again, it's in ecosystem of Adobe. We can use it and we can create it. And don't forget what I said before, like result is matter. Doesn't matter how you did it. If you did it fast, good, and in terms of quality, it's you can show your best, then why not? You can use online editors, mobile editors, different tools for some of the assignments. But before, you need to discuss with me, like, is it, can you do it or not? But probably I'll answer yes. Okay, in terms of digital journalism, like print design, so what we can do, we can prepare images for print by ensuring proper color settings, resolution, and file formats. So as we discussed before, like you remember RGB, color spaces, different formats, qualities. So here, sometimes, especially for journalists, the image that you'll prepare on your screen, and when you will print it, it can vary. It can be a little bit different because of these color spaces, of quality, and so on. So it's better to check, is everything good? Is everything you did good by the settings? And for sure, we can use some Photoshop elements for video editing. So we can combine images, text, effects, to create dynamic and visually compelling video content. So sometimes we can export as PNG with transparent background. Photoshop has its own tools for animation, for motion design. So sometimes you can do it just in one application of Photoshop, not using other elements. Okay. So here, again, as I said, what we will do, we will work with Photoshop closely, hands-on in our practice lessons. But let me show you quickly how, in general, interface of Photoshop looks. So for example, here